Hi, it's Buzzy. This is the culmination of my learning that I have done in EDLD 820 School Law. I will discuss the services that I provided during the stay-at-home order that caused special education teachers to provide various types of learning through the internet and other modalities. I will analyze barriers to learning for my students. I will consider the laws required, advice from administrators, the impact of distance learning on racism or other isms. I will discuss what I think the impact of school closing has had on my students and the lessons that I have learned. Most importantly, I will discuss how this time has influenced me as a person and how I believe it will influence my leadership style as a special education director. The special education director for Edina Public Schools, Jeff Jorgensen, created a form letter that was sent out to all parents of students who receive special education services. The letter basically states that Edina Public Schools intended to follow the guidelines from the governor for COVID-19 and uphold the students' IEPs through distance learning. My task was to create content that could help the student still achieve his goals. I began organizing my services using Google Docs. I included links to the various curriculum that I created or connected to the theme. My pair and I collaborated together to create the content and themes for each week. The three modalities that I used to provide services were synchronous, asynchronous, and packets. The synchronous meetings were created through Google Meet. My pair and I collaborated together on the content. Sometimes the music therapist and the speech and language professional would join our sessions. Our morning meeting would start with the visual schedule. First, we would say hello, then who is here. We would read a book, talk about the word of the week, answer a question, and talk about the weather. One assignment the students had to do was to send a picture of themselves for performing a task. Every day, I would post the pictures of the students doing the tasks that they were practicing at home. For asynchronous work, the students, with help, would go into the Google Doc and click on the links provided to learn more about the themes that they were working on. For example, the Google Doc had the link to the screencast that I had created about using coins and counting coins. Carol, my pair, and I collaborated on a few projects that included writing a few books and creating videos. I would write the books using PowerPoint and then create a screencast and post it on YouTube. That way the student, with help, could watch the story as many times as they wanted to. We also created packets every Friday that we sent home to the students. Another para helped me distribute the packets to the students' houses. I provided each student with a teacher-made task box that fulfilled one of their goals. There were so many things that a person could consider to be barriers. When I was discouraged one day, one of my paras quoted to me, "See obstacles as opportunities. See obstacles as inspiration." One of the most difficult barriers for us was the parents' lack of knowledge about AAC devices. One family told me once in a home visit that they didn't use the AAC devices at home because they always knew what he wanted. I said that they were doing him a disservice. That particular student's siblings actually accompanied him in almost every synchronous session. They were rock stars and learned the device very quickly. My students were provided their education for free, but I'm not sure how appropriate it was. I will discuss this in another slide. We did try to follow their IEPs by implementing their goals as much as possible in the material we provided. Short of residential treatment, this type of setting is the most restrictive. As far as least restrictive environment, this type of service model divides students and keeps them from engaging with their gen ed peers. IEPs were followed and appropriate goals were implemented. Annual IEP meetings were held at the appropriately scheduled times. Accommodations were adhered to as much as was able, such as AAC devices and visual schedules. Parents, caretakers, and SIBs were instrumental in performing the educational tasks. Parents gave consent to be on group meetings with other students. One family was provided with an interpreter during an IEP meeting. One family chose not to participate in any of the synchronous sessions. The student was not considered truant, but given special considerations due to his ongoing medical issues and behavioral struggles. I would be negligent if I didn't mention that Brown versus Board paved the way for students with disabilities by ensuring that separate was not equal. How that plays out even today is an ongoing battle. The advice that I received from my assistant principal, Mike Protaski, was to make sure that I am taking care of myself. I walked every day, and sometimes I walked 2 times per day. I was doing yoga several times a week in my living room to help regulate my anxiety. I called friends and spoke to cohort mates several times per week. A Buddhist teacher that I like, Thich Nhat Hanh, said, "Life is available only in the present. That is why we should walk in such a way that every step can bring us to the here and the now." His teachings make sense to me. I did a lot of walking and I did a lot of mindfulness meditation. The idea of racism didn't seem to play a part in my group of students. I advocated for 2 students to get Chromebooks from the district. One was a student of color and one was white. Typically, my students wouldn't be able to access a Chromebook independently. A conflict could have arisen that they had to use their siblings' Chromebook. There might be conflicts. I wanted each student to have their own, and the families appreciated it. The other 2 families had devices, and they were able to use them and didn't have siblings that were competing for the devices. The family was instrumental in every aspect. Of the 4 students, 1 student did not participate in any of the sessions. 2 of the other 3 students had siblings helping them to access the meetings. The last student had a caretaker that got online with him. That family was the most involved and responsive. There's a comment from them in the next section. I texted 2 of the 4 parents this message. I'm writing a paper for my law class. I have a prompt asking what the impact of distance learning had on students. For blank, was it positive or negative? Both parents who responded mentioned how much of a struggle it was to balance work and homeschool. The first parent said it was not as effective as learning in person. The second parent who responded reinforced the idea that if they would not have had someone helping them, it would have been difficult to meet the child's needs and work. The parents realized the important role that the school plays in the success of their child. Collaboration is a key in education. Understanding the policies of my district I work in will be a key for me as a special education director. Knowing the policies and where to find them, I will gain confidence as a leader. Theodore Roosevelt once said, "People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." I want to be that kind of leader. Thanks for watching.